The following is an exclusive presentation of Jesup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
World famous. The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
World famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, Big Dog Country Radio. Bob, how you doing this morning?
I'm good.
Doing good.
Yep.
All right. Well, we do have a special guest in this this morning.
We have Mayor Jason Weaver, but again, if you want to
not all of Jason's here.
Yeah, but
only half of them.
Again,
The best part.
The best part, Jason?
We got several topics, but the first topic we're going to talk about is this SPLOST agreement. Again, I just want to update and recap what's taken place. For those that are familiar with the SPLOST stands for Special Local Option Sales Tax. That's the 1 cent penny tax that they get when you go grocery shopping or shopping for clothes or whatever, and that 1 cent tax raises millions and millions of dollars. The Wayne County voters just recently passed the SPLOST, which is educational SPLOST, but the county and the cities of Jesup and Screven have a SPLOST 4, which is underway at the moment, and those funds will run out in June of 2024. So the negotiations are underway between the county and the cities of Jesup, Screven, and Odom for SPLOST 5 funding. So these negotiations began months ago, and the county runs the SPLOST, but they need the agreement by the cities of Jesup, Odom, and Screven. And they had 2 dates in mind for the vote. The vote was originally planned for this November, the same day the city election is November 7th. But the second option was March, and Paul Andrade, the county administrator, realized that they were running out of time for for this November. So they pushed the vote for the voters in March of 2024. So the negotiations got underway. That was the first move. Again, Paul Andrade asked that the commissioners push the vote back to March of 2024. The second item was to decide who was going to be on the SPLOST committee by all representatives. The city of Jesup, Commissioner Tim Cockfield, pushed to be on the committee along with Pam Schuman. And the reason he wanted to be on the committee because he thought the best way to split the funding up was by population. If anything else is said at this time by Commissioner Cockfield, that's simply a lie because that was the first meeting
and
that
that's
we
your
reported.
Opinion, not necessarily the
I'm
staff
just saying,
or management or the advertisers of Big Dog Country.
It should be in the minutes. I mean, that was the first meeting we reported on. In fact, weeks after that, I went to Screven, Georgia, and interviewed the man to my right, Mayor Jason Weaver, to ask him if he thought Tim Cockfield was correct and population was the way to split the funding. And Jason Weaver interview said exactly that he thought it should be population as well. So when they went to the first meeting, which was held at the William A. Zorn Airport, and also we reported this, they never notified the media for the first meeting. Only way WIFO-FM learned about the meeting was by Jason Weaver calling us and telling us that the first meeting on SPLOST is going to take place at the William A. Zorn Airport. In fact, the mayor of Jesup didn't even know it because I called the mayor of Jesup to let him know the meeting was going to take place, and he didn't know the meeting was going to take place. So at that first meeting, that was probably the best meeting they had between the cities of Jesup, Odom, and Screven. And Mayor Weaver, you can confirm this. Everyone agreed that population was the best way to divide the funding. They said that was the best way. They had the census numbers there. Paul Andrade gave the census numbers. They went by the populations of Jesup, Odom, and Screven, and they came up, that's the way they're going to divide the fundings for this SPLOST 5. Is that correct?
Yeah, we actually agreed on that at the second meeting. The first meeting, the county just kind of gave us a list of what they wanted us to come back with. Come back with your completed projects from SPLOST 4 so that you can show the taxpayers you have done what you said you'd do. And once we get to that, move to that point, then we're going to talk about percentages.
Right.
So actually, the first meeting you attended was the one that was talking about that.
And also, they list the list of projects that they wanted done. And the county's got 3 projects. 1 is courthouse security, 2 is an equestrian center, 3 is a community center. And another reason why the vote was pushed back to March is because there was talk about a $42 million courthouse complex that no one could grasp their head around. They couldn't understand why it was going to cost that much money. And eventually the county said, no, that's not the way we're going to go. We're not going $42 million. The project right now is projected to be around $10 million, but it still provides security for the Wayne County Courthouse. So everybody agreed that the money was going to be divided by population. So everything seemed to be ready to go. They were going to drop the resolution until a week ago today, Tuesday night, the city commissioners met, and they sent the county a revision to the SPLOST 5 agreement. Apparently, the projected revenue for SPLOST 5 is $28 million. Anything over $28 million, the county wants to use to roll back millage rate. The city's revision was to take that extra money and still disperse it to the cities of Jesup, Odom, and Screven, like they're doing now. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, and I want to, when you get to a point where I want to clarify something on that excess fund.
Okay. Well, anyway, so they sent the revision to the county, and the county met this past Friday, and they decided that they weren't going along with the revision. They wanted the city to agree to the original agreement. And this was the letter that Paul Drawdy, County Administrator, sent on October 20th after that meeting. It says the Wayne County Board of Commissioners held a called meeting on October 20th to discuss the special purpose local option sales tax intergovernmental agreement. By a majority vote of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners approved entering into the agreement without the inclusion of the City of Jesus's proposed amendment attached here to. Further, the Wayne County Board of Commissioners set a deadline of Wednesday at 11 a.m., October 25th, for the City of Jesup to accept the terms of the original intergovernmental agreement and to be included in SPLOST 5. Lastly, by a majority vote of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners, commissioners requiring a list of completed SPLOST 4 projects to be attached to the signed intergovernmental agreement should the City of Jesup decide to enter into the agreement. Mike Gordon, County Commissioner, he has been pushing the list of SPLOST 4 projects because he says the best way to get the voters to vote for the SPLOST 5 project is to show what SPLOST 4 funding went and what projects were completed with the SPLOST 4 funds. So again, that's where we are, and the city meets today at 4 p.m. to once again decide what they're going to do. But the problem right now I see, Mayor Weaver, and you were at the county meeting on Friday, if the city does not agree to the original agreement, the way I understand it, the county is going to go forward with a county SPLOST, and the cities of Jesup, Odom, and Screven get no funding at all, and that's what you were upset about. So I want you to explain why the cities of Odom and Screven would be shut out.
Okay, so if an agreement isn't reached on an IGA, which is intergovernmental agreement, the county. First, let me back up. The county controls SPLOST.
Right.
And cities have nothing to do. I mean, it's a county thing from legislation, totally county control. So county can do what they want. So I want to make sure we understand that to where we're following to where we are now. And like you said, we stopped last November because we were proposed a $42 million complex out there at the airport, and everybody's breath went out of them. It was like, done deal. It was over 5 minutes when it started. I mean, I'm telling you. So fast forward now, your commission board changed. They hired a new administrator. He comes in, personally, does a phenomenal job cutting this thing from $42 million down to $10 million on what the judges and what this and that says will work. So at this point, I think it's very important for us to understand the county, they have a level 1 and a level 2 and what I call a full split. We operate on a full split right now on SPLOST 4, which means each person gets their money time it starts. So at this point, the county could have taken and put that courthouse. It qualifies as a level 1 project. And if it's a level 1 project and they say $10 million for the first 2 years of SPLOST money, now if this passes by the voters, of course, the first 2 years of that money goes directly to that level 1 project of the courthouse. Then, if the 2 years has not yielded $10 million, what was projected, that SPLOST becomes a 6-year SPLOST because it's a 5-year if they're on a level 1 project. That SPLOST becomes a 6-year SPLOST. Money starts being split after 2 years on a population, on population. So the county chose not to do level 1 to help Screven, Odom, and Jesup would immediately begin to receive funding when the new SPLOST starts. So where we go to now is the excess funds. What I want to clarify on that, I'm the first one that had an issue with that. You'll hear 9D. Everybody's talking about 9D, 9D. Well, that's what 9D says, excess funds. I had an issue, but I handled it through an email with every person that's in that negotiating committee is in that email thread. I didn't backdoor conversation here or yonder or down there at the street or none of that. And I asked, shared my problem, shared my issue, because I thought this is how it read, that after $28 million, we'll keep the money and it goes towards ad valorem taxes. Well, the attorney responded back, excess fund, you have 5 years. This is the way they're reading it. They're not even reading it to take the money from us, okay, after $28 million. They're reading it as the law says after 5 years, if you still have money from this SPLOS, so I want you to understand that's year 2035, okay? If we still have money from that SPLOS, then that money, if it's not allocated, it can be allocated and you can pay for it in 2040. But if it's not allocated, then it goes to the county. So I'm just going to use hypothetically. Say the city of Screven had $100 left. We ain't got nothing to spend $100 on because you can't buy bubblegum for $100 in 2035. So we would have to give them that $100 back. They would put it towards ad valorem taxes. Well, number one, we can get mad about that all we want, okay? But who does that benefit? Every single one of us, if we can drop. And I want you to understand, that isn't something the county chose to do with the money. The state law of Georgia says that's what they have to do with the money, is put it to ad valorem. They don't have a choice. They couldn't.
Right, and that's what the county says they're going to do with the extra money. Is they're going to try to roll back.
Right.
So the question I asked.
Why 2035?
Because you have to have that money spent by 5 years after.
5 years, and that would be
2030. And then 5 years after is 2035.
Okay.
And the question I asked, like I said, the thing I kept hearing at these meetings is the language in SPLOS 4 is exactly the same language in SPLOS 5. So I asked the question at the county meeting Friday because everybody at these meetings stated that SPLOS 4 funding is already passed. What was it projected to generate?
That's
and the
correct.
cities as Jesup, Odom, and Screven are getting money. So I said,
is that being rolled back to taxes?
No, because we're not in that 5 year.
That'd be 5 years.
Right.
Okay. That explains that because Andy Beaver, the attorney, did a great job explaining
That's
that.
right.
But it was a 7-minute answer, so I just didn't get a chance to put it. I mean,
7-minute answer, your brain just goes blah, blah, blah.
No, it would have took the whole 10-minute newscast. But anyway, that's where we're at. So as far as Screven is concerned, you're hoping that the city signs the original agreement. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
They meet at 4:00 today.
I mean, the
to make that
reality is,
decision.
if they don't, Screven and Odom's out because the law says in an intergovernmental agreement, this is where you were headed a while ago, that for there to be an intergovernmental agreement, 50% of the municipal population has to sign. Well, Screven and Odom together is not 50% because there's just say 10,000 people in Jesup, 800 in Screven, 500 in Odom. That's not 50%. That's not 5,000 between Screven and Odom. So we signed. We signed immediately upon getting the answer from Andy on what 9D meant. We signed the next morning. Odom signed the morning after because they had to call a meeting and wait the time frame to be able to have that meeting. Now, Jesup can sign by themselves. If Screven and Odom said, we don't agree with this, they could, which would be the dumbest thing we would ever say, but they could sign by themselves because they are 50%. And Jesup could sign with Odom or with Screven all the way. But if Jesup doesn't sign, Screven and Odom doesn't have a chance to sign because we don't qualify to sign. So we're just out there on a limb.
And what is your understanding of the city of Jesup coming back with this alternative proposal here? I'm sure that you've talked to some city officials in the city of Jesup. Why do they do this? What was their reasoning?
I have. We had this what some people deemed a private meeting. It wasn't no private meeting. I mean, we ain't had no private meeting. Ralph, myself, and Greg meet randomly because you're
the mayor,
right? And I try I mean, I know what's going on in GMA. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I ain't trying to toot no horn, but I'm telling you, don't nobody in this county take their job more serious in the political field than I do. I promise you that. And anybody that says they do is crazy. So I keep up with what's going on, why, when, and where. Bob, you can testify. I've been at every meeting. I've been at City of Jesup meetings. I'm at county meetings. I mean, we're there till 11 o'clock the other night, for God's sake, on my time. Because if something happens, I need to know what's going on so my community's prepared and ready. Because what they don't understand is the triple effect of what this may cause for us moving forward as a community. But, Butch, to answer your question, their concern was 9D. Because they're reading it, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong by no means. So don't think that, but that's their opinion. They're reading it that they can take the money after 28 million's collected, that they can take the money. The county can keep the money right then. Well, the county's telling you after 5 years what's left, and I'm just gonna tell you, man. When we left that day, there was handshake. I mean, there was babies kissed.
Right. It was a great meeting.
It was barking dogs and trash, man.
Everybody agreed.
It was the best.
Was the way to go.
Right. Nobody. Here's the thing. I'm telling you, nobody questioned it. Anybody that says they did is telling you a lie. Nobody questioned it.
I was there.
The only thing that was even discussed was after we agreed on that, Mayor Hickox wanted to talk to all of us about this fire training center, and we spoke about it for 5 to 10 minutes. And he was talking about, hey, we'd love to do this. It'll help the whole community. And we're all sitting there. We're tuned in, and everybody's like, man, this is a pretty good idea. But for me, there's a lot of things that are good ideas. It's a good idea for me to go to Cabo, but I can't afford it. So I said, how much would that cost me? And he said, I want y'all to think about this in y'all SPLOS if you don't mind when you're writing your deal. And I said, well, what would it cost me? And he said, well, if we went on percentage, just like population, that's what he said. If the thing cost $1 million, it would cost Screven $25,000. Would be their buy-in forever to train our firefighters and our police and keep our ISO rating dropped, because that is the one thing in this county that we'll never be able to drop on, is because we don't have a training facility. So it's a win all the way around. $25,000 forever. I looked at Ralph and said, that's probably doable. And we leave. Next thing I know, when we go to leave, Andy says he will send us a rough draft, and we're to meet again. Okay. Well, between the time of getting that rough draft, I go through it and I find that 9D. I didn't understand it. I was understanding it the way Mayor Hickox and them were understanding it, because I was talking to them. That's my phone call. I pick up the phone. I call him. I don't call Paul Drawdy every 15 minutes, I called Ralph, or I called Greg, and I'm like, man, you read this. What do you think it means? And he's telling me what he thinks it means, and I'm like, well, maybe it does mean that, So I type an email. Well, Andy tells me what he deems it means. I'm fine with it. I sign and go on. Between that time is when this land deal that threw this whole thing in a monkey wrench comes up, that Screven and Odom had no idea about. Okay, that Commissioner McCrary stated very clear in the meetings, because you were sitting in, that he told them, we'll talk about land after SPLOS. They say that ain't how it went. Right. This is a he said, she said going on here.
Actually, we had with Jamie Hickox asking those questions about the newspaper article they had. Like I said, that went back and forth on Friday. So like I said, he says the article is not correct. So
right. But one thing I can tell you for 100% fact is, I even told you this, Bob, as our talks as friends today. I was so frustrated because through this whole process, I haven't heard from Kevin. Kevin, I want you to understand, Kevin represents District 2. He represents me. We have a little bit different belief on this representation of the city versus who represents the city and who don't, because I want you to understand, we in the city get double taxed, so we got double representation. It ain't that the city commissioner, I know what he's saying, but both, you represent both. That's just in my personal opinion that you do. But so finally, yesterday, Kevin calls me, and he says, hey, I'm hearing that you're upset and mad at me. I said, point blank, I mean, everybody knows Jason Weaver. I said, I am. And he said, why? I said, I ain't heard nothing from you through this whole thing, man. I said, I mean, we're out here like a limb in fear of losing our whole city. I mean, because without SPLOST, Screven and Odom doesn't have a fire station. They don't have a police department. They don't have, if a lift station tears up, they don't have that. And that's even more important than a police department and a fire station, honestly. So he said, well, let me explain to you why you ain't heard from me. He said, I made it very clear in the beginning that SPLOST negotiations would take place with a group. There wouldn't be no, I won't be calling you and talking to you about SPLOST so that the other can't hear what we're discussing. And I said, hey, I got you, man. I appreciate it. So, I mean, I was over that, being upset at him because, I mean, he gave me the legitimate reason why.
All right, so let's get down to the extra money after $28 million. What happens there? I'm trying to get our listeners to understand what's going on with this, with the
Butch,
difference in opinions.
The county wants the $28 million extra money to go to back taxes. That's what they're going to say. They use
20. We're getting lost in this, guys. 28 million is just a projected amount.
Right.
28 million ain't got nothing to do with what happens with the money after 28 million. That's what I was just explaining. After if we collect 50 million and we spend it, then there ain't excess money. So after 5 years, you know what I'm saying? There's not any. Right. Like that's where we are right now. Cause see, they projected 21 million in this SPLOST 4. We're already over that. Okay, nobody's asked us for a check back. Nobody's kept our check. I just deposited one yesterday. So, and the language is identically the same. And I'm just a guy. When we left that day, everybody gave their word that there was an agreement. And when I found the issue with 9D, we signed after we got our answer. And the reason we signed is because we give our word. And when we give our word, it means something. And that's what we've lost around this community.
So you're surprised that all this conflict's coming up because after that meeting, everything seemed to be just fine, and then suddenly things changed.
I'm totally surprised. I mean, just blown away. But, I mean, I'm blown away that there's an issue with this, but I'm not blown away that because you got some that just they'd rather argue with a fence post.
Comments at the Tuesday meeting that they were creating an issue that didn't need to be created. Because the city's got $9 million at stake. If they walk away from this agreement, they lose $9 million.
That's what I talked to Joe. Joe and I are good friends, so I talked to Joe and I said, Joe, why don't you take your commissioner hat off for a minute? I'm gonna take my mayor hat off. This is Jason and Joe talking on Friday night. I said, is the city of Jesup really willing to give up $9 million over $800,000? Because we're arguing over 3% here. We got to understand, and 2.5% is $700,000. So I'm just guessing around 8. It ain't. I'm sure that's not the exact number, but somebody will correct me later. I'm sure on social media. But I mean, are we really going? Are we going to take a chance and lose $9 million over that?
What do you hope happens today at today's Jesup City Council meeting?
Well, if they have any common sense, I would think they would vote. It would be voted unanimously, but I'd be willing to bet you my house it won't be voted unanimously.
For what?
For a piece of bubble gum. I mean, I bet you my house.
Do you think they'll go back to the original agreement today?
Well, I hope they do. I don't know. Okay. I don't know, but I hope they do. But there's some pretty strong against it from the city side, and that's just. I mean, I don't understand this whole thing about. I've never said something about population from Commissioner Cockfield. That's a lie. I'm telling you, that's a bold-faced story. That you talking about fact? That is a fact.
After he said that at the meeting, he said he wanted to be on that committee because he thought the best way to do the breakdown of funds was population. That night I came to you, and I still got that interview in the can where I asked you, do you agree with Mr. Commissioner Cockfield? Is that the best way? Because I don't know what the best way is. And you said, I believe that's the best way. I believe population is the only fair way to go about it.
It is.
And then we got to the airport, and everybody sat there. And when Paul Drawdy gave the census number, says this is the breakdown, and this is what everybody's going to get. Like you said, it was kumbaya. Everybody said, great, that's where we're going to go.
There was no negotiating because everybody got what we wanted.
And everything was fine until last Tuesday night when they came up with this revision. And now they're trying to claim that one of the reasons is they need more money because of this industrial park out here.
Which I personally
never heard anything about that.
I personally said Then it should have been on the SPLOST list. Why is it not on there as one of your projects?
That's a good question too.
I mean, that's a great project.
Why isn't it
I don't
on the
understand
SPLOST
that. But that should have been told from the beginning. What we've got away from, I feel like, in this community is, number one, is being honest with each other. Because I'm telling you, I'm about sick of it. I mean, everywhere you go, it's a joke. I mean, I tell my council over there how much they don't understand how much I appreciate them, because this is just dog and pony crap going on over here. I mean, it's out. It's just Butch, Bob, I want you to think on something. We tried to stop construction in the city of Jesup. Okay? This is just back up a little bit. We tried to stop construction. They went through a war fighting that. Finally got that put to bed. Then Commissioner Cotfield jumps on the tourism board for no reason. Tourism board, probably the hardest working board in this county. I can tell you some other boards if you want to get rid of that you should, that don't do nothing. But this one works. And when we have an event, I don't know how many events, a bunch of them, but when we have an event, it's all weekend that we work. I mean, you got volunteers out there. So that kind of gets pushed to the side for now. Then all of a sudden, we're going to argue over DDA, and we're going to argue over Archfest. And I just sit there the other night watching that meeting. We were there at that meeting. I just sit there, Bob, watching and saying, the same person that has an issue with it being downtown is the person that made the freaking motion to move it. I mean, what people aren't dumb.
Well, like I said, what was sad about that is it took a room full of downtown merchants to come in there and say, demand that Archfest not be on the Saturday of the Christmas parade and not to block the streets off.
That had already told their director.
The former DDA director that they got rid of, Hallie Gillespie, told them that. The interim director, Tracy Smith, told them that. They've been told time and time again. The Chamber of Commerce went and begged them not to have the Archfest on the same day of the Christmas parade. They didn't listen to them. Like I said, it was sad that they took the merchants to take their time out of their Tuesday night to show up there, and they showed up in full force.
They sure did.
That room was packed, and they finally got the message, or he finally got the message, Mr. Cockfield. Oh, we better change.
Yeah, I mean,
why didn't they listen to the DDA director? I mean, that's what I said, and I said that a couple of days on the Butch and Bob show. It's not just the city. I mean, we don't listen. We hire people to do jobs, but we don't listen to those people when they tell you this is what you got to do. Like I said, I'm still frustrated about when the athletic director and head football coach walked in there to school board and said, look, we need to combine these two middle schools because they can't compete on this level. And Sharon Daniels says, no, we're not doing that. And guess what? They're getting beat 42-0 every time they try it.
Well,
I mean, it's frustrating. They're going to bring it back in January. Hopefully they listen to them. But why don't we listen to people we hire? I don't understand.
Well, I'll tell you this. You're only as good as the people that work for you. And just use that for instance. You know, I've told Justin this is how I mean personally Jason feels about it, but I'm not on the school board. If you recommend that to me, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with you, because guess what? If it fails, I'm probably going to fire you. Right. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Exactly.
I mean,
but you got to let them do what they feel is the best.
But you know what?
Hire those people.
It ain't gonna fail. You know why? Because people care in this community, and that's what I mean.
I want to.
All right, Jason, I want to read these to you.
I want to make one invitation, though. I invite Mr. Cockfield to come to the Butch and Bob show. I've been trying to. I tell people all the time, we invite all these people to come, but they won't come. But if Mr. Cockfield wants to come and be on the Butch and Bob show, I extend that invitation.
I just can't understand why we keep hooking our horse to that wagon that's got a square wheels on it. I can't figure it out.
All right. We've gotten a lot of text messages.
I'm sure.
But I'll just sum it up in this one right here, because this is what all of them basically have said. Preach on, Mayor Weaver. Thank you for being honest and transparent.
Well, I told y'all when I ran, we was going to run on just do right. Everybody that knows me knows I'm going to say what I feel. I mean, I'm reminded weekly of Bob, this is one of the best stories ever. You remember we created a rec board. My God, how long did that last? Huh?
No,
one meeting.
That's recreation board, folks.
Right. I didn't even know. I didn't know. Me and Joe wasn't. I mean, I didn't really know Joe. I just knew he was over the hospital. But Joe tells the story better than anybody. We were up there sitting, Jody Grooms as a chair on this thing, Mike Williamson, myself, and I forget who, Tyrone McGill and somebody else. And we're listening to all this hoopla and all these people talking, and I had enough of it. I mean, I was a young guy, but I'd had enough. I said, I could just make a motion to fire the guy right now. I mean, rec board lasted one meeting. Disband, never again.
Now, are you going to be trying to persuade some folks on the city council today that, Screven's got to have its money? Please go back to the original agreement?
Butch, I'm going to tell you something.
All right.
You sent out a long email.
Hey, I got an email right here, and I want you to hear.
So you've already sent it all to them?
Oh, man, yeah, I got, signed, sealed, and delivered. I want you to hear.
Okay, so you sent a long email to them letting them know your thoughts and feelings.
So this was dated October 19th. So.
Well, this is before all the controversy, then, right?
Well, no, this was
about the time it started.
There's an important timeline in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Jesup had a meeting October 17th where they voted to send a letter to the county.
That's right, the 17th.
Stating that they wanted to negotiate.
They want a revision.
Right. Let me explain something to you. I have the letter right here. I can show you. The letter was sent October 5th. The letter was sent before they ever voted with their whole commission. So I don't know what's going on here.
Who sent the letter? But that would have to have council approval, wouldn't it?
Well, apparently only in Screven. But there's the letter. What's the date on it, say, Bob?
October 5th.
Right. Okay. So I want you to, and then the county responds with this letter. Look, we received your letter dated October 5th. So I don't know what's going on, who, what, when, where, but we need to do the right thing and stop all this hoopla that's going on. So I'd like to read this email. It'll take just a second, but it's very, very important.
That's right.
I sent this. I want you to understand, I sent this to every elected official, not just the ones on this SPLOS committee, because through this thing, I found out some don't have a clue what's going on. So I wanted them to be informed on what was going on. So, and I sent it to Miss Rose and Mr. Paul and Andy and the clerk in Odom and my clerk. So the people that needed to know. I said, good morning. I want to send everyone an email to express a concern and a plea for us all to do better. We have an opportunity to do what hasn't been done in years in Wayne County. Can you honestly tell me the last time there was unity among 4 governmental agencies? This is a point that every single one of us ran on in our campaign. In 2018, the city of Screven hosted the first Unity in the Community dinner involving all governmental agencies. At that meeting, it was decided it would take place quarterly moving forward, rotating between each agency. The next quarter, Odom hosted, as they were inclined to. It stopped after that. No more were held as tension started to grow countywide. The funny thing is, when we held the first one, a comment was made to me that this has been done several times, Mayor, and it's never worked for Wayne County. You'll see. I made the comment that I will not let it fail. Well, guess what? I failed you all. I failed to uphold what I said on that day. I failed to hold people accountable for agreements they made. I failed to continue to show the citizens that harmony and cooperation is strong and well in Wayne County. For that, I apologize to each and every one of you. It was not our turn to host, but I should have kept the fire burning and figured a way to keep it happening to show naysayers it can be done. I fast forward 6 years later. Here we sit with the biggest and largest decision we as a group have had to make. I have attended everyone's meetings and heard the concerns from each side. You all read my email about how Screven felt about paragraph 9D. Let me explain to you why we are where we are in Screven. We have too much to lose. It's that simple. Without SPLOS, there's no police department. Without SPLOS, there's no fire department. Without SPLOS, there's no repairing of lift stations. Without SPLOS, there's no repairing of roads or a well in Screven. Our tax base does not provide enough money to even purchase one vehicle during a year. However, I do see both sides of this situation. If there's no intent to keep money at the end, maybe you could put it in the contract and it wouldn't be an issue at all. Yes, it has been in every contract prior, and the county has never kept the money, so there's no reason for me to believe that their word isn't true. But I'm reminded of one thing the school board taught me in an open meeting, as well as Mr. Jeffords taught me. You better put it in writing. So when it came down to decision time, we reverted back to giving our word when we left that day that we all had agreed, and I firmly raised on a man's word is his greatest worth. Being from Screven, I just deeply believe in people's words, and I do understand it's 2023 and some people are not honest. However, I do not believe anyone in this group doesn't want the best for Wayne County as a whole. A lot of times I say something or I make a comment and it gets blown off, and I hear comments from the choir about my comment. Some of you treat me as I don't know what I'm talking about when I make a statement, or that they're 30 levels above me intelligence-wise. I guarantee you that every one of you are more scholastically intelligent than I am. That is no doubt. However, I'd be willing to bet you that none of you, other than maybe Paul, Rose, Barbara, and Sierra, work harder at their title than I do, learning and applying. All I want is for us to be able to work together. As Dr. Schumann said, and she said this in the Jesup meeting the other night, this is key. This is probably the most powerful statement in the whole thing. As Dr. Schumann said the other night, the sidebar promises and conversation is what has us to where we are today. If we're all open and honest and discuss everything as a group, issues won't blindside other agencies when they come to light, because you can rest assured in Wayne County it's coming to light. Guys, I'm just begging you all to take a hard look, and let's try to set bygones to the side and get this negotiation completed. Again, without it, Screven and Odom cannot survive. I would hope that you take this email into consideration. At least take 2.5% of it for Screven and 1.5% of it for Odom into consideration. We could set the tone for the future of Wayne County. We could apply the definition to the hashtag We Are Wayne County. Thank you for taking time to read this. It probably rambled on and made no sense to some of the educational people. But it's wrote straight from my heart this morning while I was walking at 6 a.m. All I can say is, please. And then I signed it. And I sent that.
You sent that all of them there.
I did. And Butch, that sums it up right there. You asked what I would want, that's what I want.
That's what you want.
Come on, let's just work together,
the meeting's
guys.
at 4. Hopefully they'll come to their senses and vote for the original agreement that everybody agreed upon. Like I said, that's what's crazy to me about it. Everybody thought that this was a great agreement. Population was the way to go. Everybody thought the projects were the right projects, but last Tuesday a monkey wrench was thrown into it, and that's where we are now. It's a tennis match back and forth. The city sent it to the county sent it back with the ultimatum today or Wednesday at 11 o'clock. So if they pass it today, they'll meet that deadline. But like Weaver says, the question is, what will be the vote?
Yeah, what will be the vote today?
Yeah, who votes for it? Who votes against it? It comes down to, it's going to be interesting how it all turns out.
I'm sure they're all listening. And if they're listening, I mean, come on.
Scriven and Odom's getting caught in the crossfire.
Right.
We are collateral damage.
They're collateral damage, like I said
damage.
yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
It's sad. I mean,
it is
like
sad.
I said, with Sploss, those two cities really don't survive at all.
And I've had some calls through the weekend. I just want to make sure that this is very clear. And I have not taken them. Okay, I have not, because I needed a weekend. As you saw me leave Friday, I was highly upset. Right. And I needed the weekend because I know Jason better than anybody in this world knows Jason. And if I would have answered the phone, I probably would have said something to put my foot in my mouth or deserved a belt on my butt for what I said, I can tell you. And my mama wouldn't have been proud of what I'd have had to say. So it was best for me to just shut it out.
Okay. Well, Mayor of Screven, Jason Weaver, in the studio this morning. We appreciate you taking your time and coming in this morning and sharing your feelings and thoughts on this matter.
Thank y'all. Thank you for thank you for the public forum. I mean, I hate that we have to come to this sometimes, but sometimes you got to call a spade where the problem is.
Well, it just seems like you governmental agencies, families, businesses. When you get money involved, there seems to be conflict a lot of times. It's just the way it is.
It is, but Butch,
but the thing about it is, y'all thought y'all had everything worked out.
I know, but I want you to understand too that I read all that stuff on social media, man, where these people bash us around here. They bash us so hard they don't know we got families too. But all politicians ain't bad, okay? There are some good ones out there. There are some that care. There's some right here in this community that care. So just please know what you're talking about if you're going to bash me. If I do something stupid, bash me. But don't bash me for something you ain't got a clue about. I mean, come on, man. Ask me. It don't take it. My phone number's open. Call me and ask me. I promise I'll tell you.
All right.
But, hey, I want y'all to come to our coffee card thing Thursday. Anybody that wants to. Hey, come over there. I'll talk to you all day about it.
And what time is that?
It's at 8:30 at City Hall Thursday morning.
In Screven?
That's right, in Screven. We're going to have some door prizes, and we're going to have some breakfast foods and just
some good
a
stuff.
good time. Chambers help sponsoring it, and we're gonna have a good time. Come on over. I'll have a surprise for you if you come over.
Okay. All right. That's it. Anything else, Bob? All right. The world-famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, brought to you by Connection Coffee and Creamery, O'Quinn and Associates, Murphy Builder Supply, First Southern Bank, and Van's Barbecue.